Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. I know I say this every single episode, but I am very excited for the episode today, mostly because I have had the wonderful opportunity to be able to be a part of this organization for about 6 months, 8 months, the last 8 months or so. And I'm super excited to bring some of the key leaders in getting our Hospice of Elgin launched in the county of Elgin in Ontario. So I'm super excited. I've got with me today Laura Sherwood, who is the Director of Hospice Partnerships for St. Joseph's Society, and Brenda Fleming, who is the Executive Director of our Hospice of Elgin. So welcome, Brenda and Laura.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm so excited to have you on. So I'm going to give you an opportunity just to briefly introduce yourselves, like tell us, a little bit about you personally and a little bit maybe about your role and what you do for St. Joseph's and for the hospice. So Laura, I'm going to have you go first.
Great. Well, thank you. Just to, share a little bit about me, because it's so surprising to look back on my career and think, here I am supporting building a hospice. It's not something I think most people think of when they think about their career. But I would say most of my career has been anchored in healthcare, very passionate about the wonderful work that many organizations do to support individuals on their journey of health, but often that means supporting them as they are dealing and wrestling with health issues and stepping towards recovery. But hospice was a bit different. So when I was, starting my journey in that healthcare, joined St. Joseph's Healthcare Society and got introduced to hospice through our St. Joseph's Healthcare or St. Joseph's Hospice of London, which also included a hospice in our family of organizations in Sarnia, Lambton as well, and learned just about the beauty of what was possible in healthcare. It was beyond just the medical care. It was really an introduction that care could extend far beyond that into spaces of caring for the whole individual. And so the beauty of that continued to inspire my curiosity and wanting to learn a bit more. And then, of course, once we heard that Elgin County was one of the last regions in southwestern Ontario to get a hospice, we heard about the significant needs and a growing and aging demographic and how we support individuals in this community. We quickly got involved. And so that involvement has really grown over the past, I'm going to say many years, but officially we got the green light to start our work and involvement in 2019. And that's where, the Ministry of Health gave us the green light, the thumbs up, to start the planning for Hospice of Elgin. And of course, it's been quite a journey ever since.
Amazing. That's so cool. And it's such an inspiring thing to think about, like where your career has taken you. I find that myself, that I'm like, I went to engineering school and now I do this. Our lives throw us loops and take us places we never expected. So it's so fun. Brenda, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm happy to. So I'm Brenda Fleming, and I come from Elgin County, which is something that I say very, very proudly. I've lived here my entire life. I was born in Elgin, and I continue to live here today. But interestingly enough, until earlier this year, I had never actually worked in the community that I lived. So I really see my opportunity. I've only been with Hospice of Elgin since the middle of February of this year. In the very few weeks that I've been here, I've I've been very welcomed by the team and by Laura and others. And I really feel that, I found my passion. I found my place. A little bit about me. I am an accountant by profession, and I have spent the last 27 years in the cancer care space within the acute care hospitals. I worked at London Health Sciences Center as the director of the Southwest Regional Cancer Program, which is really looking at cancer system planning, performance design across Southwestern Ontario. And had the opportunity actually to meet Laura quite a few years ago when palliative care services across Southwestern Ontario and the Declaration of Partnership, Ontario Palliative Care Network, and sort of the whole system of palliative care in the province of Ontario was being restructured and redesigned. Cancer Care came to the table, along with many of the other community partners, to look at the existing system and care providers and really try to drive some standardization and some quality improvement in that space. And Laura and I had the opportunity to sit at many of the same tables together. Fast forward to 2024, and my career took a slightly different path. After 27 years in the cancer program, I had fully expected that I would stay at the cancer program for the balance of my career. But this opportunity came up, and it was one that just absolutely fit with my leadership, my morals, my ethics, my values, and I'm very, very happy to have joined the organization earlier this year.
So awesome. I love it. And so thank you for just kind of explaining your journey, because I think our journeys are so important to how we get to where we are, because they form us, they make us, and they drive us to do these things. And this hospice project is just such an amazing thing. So I would love to hear from you. Like, first, can somebody, one of you, whoever wants, maybe Laura, take this one, explain what hospice is? Because I think a lot of us have an idea. We there's a care, or maybe there's a building, maybe there's not a building. So can you explain first, what is hospice when we talk about hospice care?
Oh, that's a great question. And you're right, Kristina, there's so many different interpretations or understandings or misconceptions often about what is hospice care. Often I think people think of hospice and they think it's a place where you go to die. And we always highlight that actually hospice is a place where you go to continue to live until you die. And that's an important nuance, that our focus really is around quality of life and comfort and care in those final days before death. It is both, yes, a place. So it is a place to support individuals when they can no longer stay in their home and they can come in and access that care. But it also is a bit of a philosophy of care as well. And so part of the care for hospice is not only just medical care. So we have that specialized expert care that will be provided by a medical and healthcare team that really supports those physical needs. But we know that as human beings, we show up as mind, body, and spirit. And so part of hospice care also includes that psychosocial, spiritual realm of care. But what's really unique too about hospice is that we not only care for the palliative individual, but we care for their entire family and their caregiver. And so it really is a beautiful, holistic model of care, of wraparound care to support individuals at any period of their journey. And so often we refer to palliative care within that, 2 years prior to death. However, that really can fluctuate. An individual may come into a hospice in their last, they may come in, 6 months before an access care, but still stay at home. It really is about personalizing the care and the needs based on the resources and support and the wishes of the individual on their final journey.
Mm-hmm. So beautiful. Like, I think it's something that most of us don't like to think about, right? We don't think about what's happening at the end of our lives. To think that there's that last 2 years, like maybe we don't know we're there in the last 2 years, but if you kind of think about those last few years of our lives, and there is such an impact there. There's such a time that we can help people make that transition, help families make that transition. That's a beautiful thing. So let's talk about why Elgin. Like, why did we put a hospice here? What's that going to do for Elgin County? Brenda, do you want to grab that? Yeah.
I'll jump in there, and I'll speak from a systems perspective, and then I'm sure Laura from the St. Joseph's Healthcare Society and can add a little bit more to that. But I think it's important to understand that in Elgin County, there have been no specialized palliative care services in place other than a palliative care outreach team, which is staffed by some very, very, very talented and committed nurse practitioners. But in other communities, there would be a palliative care service, which would be made up of many physicians, nurse practitioners, nurses, and sort of a specialty care hub. Elgin County doesn't have that, with the exception of the palliative care outreach team that I mentioned. So the real opportunity in Elgin County is not only with hospice and building that facility and that hub of care, but really also extending that specialty care service, the education and the sense of system to a much broader perspective, and really increasing the value of the palliative care services generally, regardless of who's delivering that. In palliative care, there are a number of different aspects. There's sort of a triangle model is used to describe this. There's sort of the generalized palliative care, then a little bit more specialized, and then at the very top of the triangle is that very specialized, comprehensive palliative care journey, and really is where hospice fits in terms of our residential hospice, our beds, in that truly that last 2 weeks of life. But there's so much more under the tip of the triangle, if I can put it that way, that really that we see as we enter into Elgin County in the palliative care space in Elgin County, that hospice and the team at hospice, the medical team, which will be led by our medical director, Dr. Kira Harris-Schultz, who is a specialist in non-malignant palliative care, absolutely will be able to work elbow to elbow with many in the community to increase and enhance the services for all residents. Whether or not they actually have hospice as part of their journey, they will be touched and impacted by the services that we're able to bring to the community. Now, Laura, I'm sure there's from the St. Joseph's Healthcare Society, a slightly different passion and view of that. So I'm going to turn it over to you to let you explain.
Yeah, it's more building upon, as Brenda had highlighted, there are gaps in our healthcare system, and those gaps impact us all. So whether an individual doesn't have access to palliative care, we know those system pressures are traveling to other communities, and individuals are having to leave Elgin County to spend their final moments outside of the community. That is only, not an ideal for anyone or family, but then the family and caregiver now needs to travel outside a community back and forth just to visit and say goodbye to their loved one. None of us would wish that for our own family. And so the need around care to pull off some of the pressures that are impacting our system, but also understanding who our community is. And so while I know we always say we're last in the Southwestern Ontario region to get a hospice, that, while unfortunate, has been a blessing as we've started this journey, because we have now learned so much from the surrounding communities. And our call to action, if you will, has been really strong because we know the aging demographic. We know that we're an urban rural split of community, that many of the individuals who are palliative, transportation barriers become an issue. And, they may have, their homes might not be able to be set up to be able to support in those final days. So there's lots of practical nuances. There is a growing aging demographic in our community that we need to consider. And so essentially the time is right for a hospice for Elgin County. And it has been a vision for over a decade. For many organizations and volunteers and community groups have been rallying for a hospice. 2019 was a very significant year to announce the start. But I think the community, quite frankly, is so excited to see doors open. And that's not that far into the distant future. So this summer, Hospice of Elgin will open its doors and transform care in our community.
Oh, so excited for it. It's getting closer, and it's almost feels like it's snuck up on us. I think we've been talking about it for a long time. Maybe not to you guys because you're involved in the day-to-day of getting this open, but me just coming in for the monthly meetings, maybe it's sneaking up on me a little bit more. But can you describe the Hospice of Elgin? It's a bit different, I think, than some of the other ones, and we've got kind of a theme around it. So can you tell us just a bit about the Cottage, as we like to call it?
The Cottage, maybe I'll start, and then Brenda can highlight all the things that I'm missing. It is such a special space. So when we started this journey with the community, we knew that the heart of hospice really is community. And so we started the planning and reached out to various different stakeholders, healthcare stakeholders, general community stakeholders, people that were passionate, interested, and also individuals who had no experience at all in the end of life journey. And we said, as a resident of this community, what matters most to you? And so we collected that feedback from the community before we started the process. And we knew that there was a couple underpinnings. So I think, we've talked about our proud rural roots and connection with the natural environment. That was something that came through. Often individuals really cited the importance of having a welcoming space. So the diversity that exists in our community, wanting to ensure that for them, for their family, for their culture, for their faith, that all would be welcomed in this space. And so those were important parts of starting to form around how might we build Hospice of Elgin. And so on that journey, it was recognition that we needed to create a welcoming space that wasn't pretentious and fancy. It was really about something that felt like it wrapped around you and created safety and hospitality. And so as we were going through that journey, hospices often talk about the home-like atmosphere, and that as being a bit of a defining piece in the design of hospices. However, the home, it doesn't matter how nice we would make hospice, it was really never anyone's home, right? And so it was really about identifying what might be a parallel to that. And cottages were really the place where we started because, as we thought about it further, we recognized that cottages were really places of gathering. It's where family and friends came together, where life slowed down, and you were able to focus on what mattered most. It was about a connection to nature, an honoring of whatever that may be. And so that really started to form some of our early day design concepts around the cottage, around creating those spaces to connect with nature. So what you'll see in hospice obviously reflects that vision of a wonderful, welcoming space that is tucked in the woods, in the heart of town with green all around it, a wonderful space for all individuals to come. And what I would say is also a bit unique in our design is we believed that care had to extend beyond beds. It was no longer just a destination for final moments, but it was a place where you could come in, access care, and return home, or come in for a short stay, or come in for grief and bereavement supports and not even have a loved one come to hospice. So this really hub of care that Brenda talked about is exactly the unique opportunity of being last in the region to access hospice, means that we were able to take the best pieces and parts of all other hospices, layered and sprinkled with the heart of the community to really guide and form what we know or referencing as the cottage.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. I love that analogy too, just as it goes to, not to take away from the cottage thing, but as it goes to businesses, just real brief, a lot of times as business owners, we get this feeling of behind, I'm last. And sometimes it's great to be last because of all of that. Like you've been able to say, yes, we want more for us. And now we can do it even better. And I think what's been very clearly happening here in Hospice of Elgin. So Brenda, can you tell us a bit more about the cottage, maybe visual mental tour?
Sure. So Laura's done an amazing job at explaining sort of the why the cottage, why the cottage feel. And since I joined the organization in February, my focus has been building the team and ensuring that the people that we bring on board as part of that hospice team are reflective of that feeling, are leading with heart, and are really, that cottage feel, that laid back, life slowing down. I'm surrounded by friends and people I trust. That feeling extends itself to the people that we recruit and that our guests will see when they arrive at hospice, they'll interact with. And so that's really where it starts to get into our values and really making sure that we recruit not only lots of people, which we know we need to be successful when our doors open later this year, but really we recruit the right people, the people that we would welcome and you would want to have at the cottage alongside with you, enjoying a meal or a sunset or whatever, or the nature that provides. So recognizing types of services and care that hospice does provide. And where people may be in their own respective journeys, the actual physical cottage building itself is a series of a number of different spaces. And each one of those spaces has the same type of feel, and people can come together and interact But it has that same welcoming atmosphere, whether that's in the family dining room, in the kitchen area, in the great room, where we have some really beautiful fixtures and big floor to ceiling windows. So even if folks aren't able to go outside, they can experience the outside like you would in a cottage. Everyone loves the big cottage windows that overlook the lake. Our big cottage windows overlook Waterworks Park. I mean, absolutely beautiful. So no matter where you are within hospice, there are windows, there's that view. Our residential suites each have a private patio space because it is important to interact with nature as much as possible. So those private outdoor patio spaces, the access to those spaces is from the rooms. Individuals can freely go in and outside and maintain that closeness, that coziness that a cottage provides. And at the same time, be able to take advantage of all of the different services and amenities that the hospice cottage will be able to provide, whether that's indoor or outdoor. And the last thing I'll mention, which is I think is absolutely very unique for our hospice and fits very well with the cottage theme, is the outdoor gardens and our fire pit. We recognize that fire is extremely important, and being able to light a fire, to sit around the fire with loved ones, roast marshmallows, and just experience what life at a cottage would be for whatever that looks like for the individuals and their families. We felt that it was very important to include that aspect within our cottage atmosphere as well. So we will have a fire pit, and we will be able to offer that service, which we believe is very unique to our setting.
Yes, and it's just so beautiful that like all just the little things, the little touches that have been thought through, like the fire pit, like every room faces the woods, like every room you get to see the woods, and that is beautiful. And even I was blessed to have a tour a little bit, so they have these wonderful little like ways to restock and do very practical things without interrupting the guests that are there. And I think that that's such a beautiful way to do that as well. So awesome. Brenda, you touched on something that I wanted to talk about as well, the people aspect. So something that so many businesses, most of the time when we start a business, we start an organization, it's like, let's just go, let's get the building up, let's get the product or the service started, let's go. But you have taken the time to curate the values and to really make sure the team is there already and the culture is already in place before we get started. Can you tell us just a bit more about that? Like maybe talk about our values and then really how does that interact with the people?
Sure. So what I can do is Kristina, I can share with you how I have used the noble purpose, which is what we call it. It's not a mission, vision, values. It's our noble purpose, our purpose for being. I can share how I've used that and how that has shaped the recruitment of some of the key team members as we enter into that journey. I did not have the pleasure of being with the organization at the time that these were developed, but I can say they very much resonated with me, and I can actually share this is my why. This is why I came to the organization. As part of my interview process, some of the questions that I was asked and some of the reflections that I was able to do after the interview process were directly anchored in some of the noble purpose and value statements that were shared with me as part of that. So I've been able to use that and pull that forward as I've recruited other members of the management team and as we venture into recruiting some of our clinical staff. And what's their why is really part of the interview process and really has helped to shape who we engage with as part of Hospice of Elgin as we're building our team. So I think Laura may have mentioned this earlier, but I'll just, it bears repeating. Our noble purpose is very, very simple, that we support exceptional care at end of life. Stop. That's what we do. That's our reason for being. How we do that is very, very, very important. So leading with our heart, as I mentioned, are in our logo and really our symbols within the work that we do is that heart symbol, because we really want to make sure that people each and every day and every interaction that they have, how they show up, what they say, how they say it, the words that they use, that they lead with their heart, that there's authenticity and caring as part of everything that everyone does. And then we have 3 bundles of values that really are almost, I don't want to call them taglines. I think that doesn't do them, their purpose, but really are 3 bundles of of phrases that really embody what those values mean. And the first is in it together. And that's, collaboration, teamwork, learning from each other, engaging cooperatively. But really, it's more than that. It's we're really in this together. No one is alone, whether that be our patients, whether that be our staff, our leadership team, our volunteers. Everybody is in this together and really striving towards the same purpose. The second bundle is moments matter. And I think that embodies something that, again, what Laura mentioned earlier, is that really making sure that those final moments and those final days, those final moments, those final weeks are the best that they can possibly be for the individuals that we serve. And whether that's walking through our great room and seeing a family member by themselves and just stopping and asking, would you like a coffee? Can I get you anything? Just how was your day? Or just stopping to acknowledge people in the spaces that they are. Those moments, those are really, really important. There's a quote by Maya Angelou. People won't remember what you said. They won't remember what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that really, that's it.
Yep.
That is it in the moments matter, for sure. And then the last bundle is duty and honor. Not only is it our duty to take care of others and to take care of those in our communities, but it's our honor to do so. We are absolutely gracious that at the most vulnerable time in their lives, individuals and their families and their loved ones are letting us in to let us help them along their journey, and are really providing such an amazing level of trust in us and what we are able to do in supporting them. And it really is both a duty and an honor to be able to do that for people in our community. Now, I'm sure there's a lot more that went into building those and a lot more of the detail, but I that's sort of how I've embodied those values and what they truly mean to me, and how I've articulated those as we begin to recruit the staff. But I'll turn to Laura, who worked very, very closely with our board volunteers and others in the development of the noble purpose and the values before we ventured out in recruiting our teams. So I'll turn to Laura to add anything else there.
I think Brenda did a great job talking about our values and noble purpose, and not much to add, just highlighting the piece around hospice is really special work. And, our recruitment slogan should be, we are recruiting great human beings, because it is really a human experience. I know we talk about it in healthcare and everyone has a caring heart or starts often in that space. But when you layer in resource pressures, you layer in COVID, you layer in, all the challenges that our health system has been experienced, it starts to strip out some of those human-centered anchoring pieces. And I think that was something that when we think about hospice, it is so much more than healthcare. It's a piece of what we do, and just really honoring what a privilege it is to journey with a family. It's not our journey, so we don't dictate what it looks like, how it goes, but we are there to support their journey. And that journey for individuals is precious time and moments that, we can't take for granted that is their time. So even as you were chatting about the physical space, anchoring those values are even really deeply anchored in the building design. So, by stocking on the outside of the room so that we're not interrupting those limited moments and minutes and days with families being together, means that that's how we protect those moments better. But it also, as Brenda nicely illustrates, it's everything. It's the moments that we have with our community. It's the moments we have with the families that are in our spaces. It's the moments we give to our staff to show them how deeply we care for them, because we recognize they are the ones that are supporting and caring for our families during that wonderful journey. And so I would say the heart of the community has really been part of building that. And I think everyone's hungry and excited to see, I would say, a space that is anchored with that heart as a leading piece to the work that we do. Care gets overused, I think, often. And so our board really wrestled with care. There's underpinnings to our values that, quite frankly, are boilerplate that should exist, that we should be a caring organization. We should be a respectful organization. We don't have to say that. Those are expected. But what are those values that we want to heighten in the hospice experience? Heightening is where the board said, let's go to the places that dances in between a little bit of that hospitality space where it's grabbing, as we said, that moment to breathe and recognizing how fragile life or beautiful life can be, and really honor all of the different pieces and parts to helping operate a hospice. It is the staff, but it also is the connection to community. And it also is the individual and the family who also play a role in creating what their journey looks like. So holding space for all is a really important part of those values. And then Brenda's doing the wonderful job of, we've got a few short months to scale up, hire all of these amazing human beings, infuse some of these wonderful values and principles into giving them permission to, quite frankly, show up and be authentically their human self. And that's something that's often new. I find that just in my own journey, you head to an interview and you think, okay, who do I need to be for this role? And what's so interesting, and I reflect on proudly being a part of Brenda's hiring, is that, we had many conversations and yes, Brenda, as an example, has fantastic credentialings to lead our organization and a depth of experience, but it's about the heart. We wanted to sit down and have coffee and understand who she was as a human being, because that leadership style is not just what she knows, but how she's going to make people feel. And so she's starting and continuing that legacy work as she's reaching out and recruiting that incredible team that's going to help form hospice. So we're very excited about the work that Brenda has started, and just so excited for the community to experience these values coming to life.
Oh, I love all of that, because when you do so many businesses, when they do values or they do, any of that stuff, they do that work, they do it in this room and then it goes on a wall and it's not really there. And the way that you have incorporated it into the building, you've incorporated it into the hiring process. And Brenda, I know you've got some examples of how you're incorporating it into the onboarding, and even it's into the day to day, because that's how you do it. Like you can't just put it on a wall, tell people during orientation, and then expect them to live and breathe it. You have to give them examples. You have to actually hold them accountable to them, because this is not just what we do, because obviously in healthcare, we have a lot of processes, a lot of policies, a lot of things that need to be out there, need to be there. And that's the what we do, but the how we do it, the with heart that we do it. And that's how you make your organization unique. That's how you make it special. And that's how you make the impact on the world that you want to make. So I think it's amazing. So just very practically speaking, Brenda, can you share with us like your idea of how you're going to incorporate it into the onboarding, and then some examples of how this day-to-day operating with these noble purposes is really
Sure. So it's a bit of a work in progress, but what I'll share is some scenario building that I've been working on. And usually when you're in an orientation session or in some sort of didactic learning session, and there's like, okay, let's talk about John. John is X number of years old. John has this wrong with him. John has that. John has this, that, the other thing. And it's as you work through the scenario, it's usually obvious, quite frankly, to the audience as you're working through the options what the path forward is. And that's not the case as it comes to living our values. And so what I've done is, and I'll use one scenario in particular that I've developed, that you come in to this front area of hospice on any particular morning. There's a volunteer at the front desk. The volunteer has a number of people waiting to speak with them. They're directing a family, but there's another group of people behind that. As an individual that is representing hospice, is working in hospice, whatever that situation is, what do you do? Do you smile, say good morning, and go on about your business? Do you go to the volunteer and say, do you need some help? Do you go to the individuals and say, good morning, is there something I could help you with this morning? And none of those things are wrong. None of those things are obvious. But how you show up with heart, moments matter. We're in this together. We collaborate and trust. There's no such thing as that's not my job. As you start to kind of tease that apart, and you start to kind of apply those values that I talked about earlier into that scenario, the right thing to do becomes more and more obvious. And so working with the staff and others through an onboarding and orientation process where we take the time to actually tease that apart and say, okay, what would you do? What is the most comfortable for you to do? And is that necessarily the thing that you should do? And really that starts to get at the heart of who people are and how they perceive different situations and how they show up in those situations, and leading with heart and making sure that, for that family that's waiting to be spoken to, maybe they're worried, they're here for their loved one's final moments. They've just flown in from out of town. They don't know where they are. They've been flying all night. They're exhausted. None of that's going to be apparent in walking by, saying good morning, and going to your office or to your work location. But stopping and saying good morning is, how can I help you? Opens up that conversation. And so that experience will help that individual or family, should they choose to say, oh my goodness, we're here. We know we've only got a very short period of time. We're here to see our loved one and we can help. And that's a completely different experience than good morning.
Yes.
And so it just kind of, it just shapes things differently and helps people see things from a different perspective, and helps people understand, again, to lead with heart, to start with that openness and interaction.
And what I love about it is that it is getting so specific. It's getting specific to a very real life scenario that you're going to experience. And that's what I think when leaders start to grow their teams and it gets bigger, if you don't give those very specific examples, people will just do what's comfortable. And when we're able to have these conversations, we can say, this is how we behave. And something you touched on, Brenda, what would you do naturally versus what do we want you to do? Because there's going to be things we need to coach out or coach through situations, like maybe that's an uncomfortable thing for somebody to do. And okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's coach that out. Let's discuss it and remove the barrier so that we're all really sharing the experience, providing that experience the same way, because that's what's key. When you have so many, like 24/7 operation going on, you've got to make sure everybody's got the filters to make decisions with, which is those value statements, that everybody can make these same decisions and that everybody is getting the same experience no matter who's volunteering or on staff at that time. So absolutely wonderful. All right. So you are in the middle of the public campaign right now for hospice. So tell us what that means. What does that look like?
Well, on our public campaign, this is something that is going to be a little bit different than what most people might be accustomed to. What I reflect on as we're heading into that public campaign is that not only are we raising money to build hospice, it is that we're also building, as we've talked about, a culture, we're building a team and building a brand as well. And so, we've talked a lot about being very clear and providing examples to staff around what good care or our values looks like. But it's also important that we share that with the community. Most people have never been in hospice and will have those misconceptions. And so when we start sharing more publicly, really all the wonderful stories about the donors and the support that they've provided to help bring this hospice to life, we couldn't just talk about the dollars and cents, because we would be missing really the heart of the community and why we're all doing this. And so we see the public campaign as a really wonderful opportunity to share all the stories about why we're building this hospice, what are the unique pieces and parts of this building, how that will impact care, and then how the donors and their personal story has been able to make this possible. And so the community will experience all the diversity of different individuals who've come together for different reasons, and hearing those stories, how they helped build hospice. So it's really about storytelling as our way to help highlight what people can expect when doors are open. So our public campaign is not about the dollars and cents, but really about the incredible people in our community who have stepped up in significant ways to help build such a special place so that you and your loved ones have a place when you need it most. And so it's really about honoring that. And so you're going to see those values coming together, not just in the hiring of our staff, but also in our public campaign, keeping that front and center in our work that we do. So we still have a little bit to go, of course, as we're putting furniture and equipment. And there's lots of furniture and equipment that need to go into that building to provide care and create the space that families can be quite comfortable in. And so we're just on the tail end of continuing to ask for the community to join us. And that's the message, that this hospices, unfortunately are not well funded by our healthcare system. And so that means that communities really step up in ensuring and protecting this level of wonderful care for future generations to come. And so as we're building towards Doors Are Open, we also have to have a bit of our eyes on that future sustainability. So once we start providing care in hospice, we will need the ongoing support of the community. And we also think that it's a wonderful gift to be able to be a part of this organization, and because it helps support that when you need it, you feel you've already been part of that. And this is such a generous, giving community that really has rallied around in many projects in our community. And so we are not surprised to see that generosity come forward to support a project like hospice. And we know that truly that is the heart of hospice. It is community built, community run. The local board of directors and volunteers who passionately donated time and dollars to be able to make this possible. Once we move into operations, we know that many grateful families will continue to support and make donations and think about hospice as a way to pay forward and also be a part of their legacy. It's such a special thing to think about, what organizations we support as individuals and our responsibility to community. And this is, I think, one of those projects that I think connect with so many.
Yes, absolutely. So what do we have to look forward to? So we're working on the public campaign, Doors Open, July. Is that all right?
End of July. Yes, it's going to be, that's what we're targeting. Now, of course, we're still in construction. So, as I tell Brenda, she's like, get doors open. And I'd say, we will, but you just got to wait for construction to catch up. And so it is a wonderful space where we're all hands or sleeves are rolled up, all working towards this wonderful goal of getting doors open. And we're also excited. It's going to be a pretty special and emotional moment when we accept the first resident and family to come through our doors. And, we've talked about buildings, we've talked about hiring, we've talked about all the business components, but it really is very humbling when you welcome somebody and that they are approaching their final moments in life, and you watch a family who's going through something so difficult. And that value of we're in it together, we're there for them. And that's why I think, Kristina, as you said, it's all the little things. It's not one thing we do. It's all the little things. It's when people show up and they feel that or see those big timber structures and they walk up, and that starts the journey of healthcare. It's the anchoring point. It's the confidence that comes from that part of the building that envelopes you. But it's also that warm, welcoming face when you walk through those front doors. And it is being surprised and curious about the sights and sounds and smells. It's about the water wall and that trickling tranquility that a family reflects on and says, wow, my loved one is here, that this is a beautiful space, even though it's hard. And then it's the care staff that say, if I'm going to work anywhere and not be with my own family, and I get to do this type of work, what a privilege and honor that is. And so it's wrapping all of that up. And I think, when we talk about getting doors open, big celebrations, it's not until everyone has that moment that I think we will be standing there just with tremendous joy and peace and excitement, even though we're talking about death and dying and the end of life. It's what we wish for all of our loved ones, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you said earlier, hospice is not just about the end of life necessarily. It's for the whole family. It's for the community. And when we can support people as a community through this, and we can bring the community together around supporting people and just all of the other things that the hospice building is going to be hosting, it's just such an amazing thing to have right in Elgin County, right in our, beautiful little nestled right on the edge of the woods there. So that is so wonderful. And I'm so excited. So if people want to follow the journey of hospice and get more information and help out with the campaign in any way, what's the best way to learn more and be a part of it?
So the quickest way to get information is always social media. So I would really encourage folks to to look up our website, www.elginhospice.com. And on that website, we are, we've got heads down, we're getting ready to doors open, but we're recognizing that we also need to keep our community up to date and informed. So over the next, little bit of time, we're going to really be posting a lot of information on that website. But really, really important that follow us on Facebook and other social medias. The links to that social media pages are on our website. So that's probably the first place to go. And then from there, please like and follow us, and more to come. We'll have lots of information to share with the community. And we encourage the community to reach out through those pages and share what's important to them with us, because this is definitely a relationship that's going to be built for years to come. Although we're really excited about our doors open, that's really just the beginning of the Hospice of Elgin in the community.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much both for not just sharing your journey with us today and all of your experiences today, but for the work that you're doing, because this is such powerful, important work for our local community and really your community abroad. So I thank you so much for that. And thank you for joining me today. And
thanks.
Thanks. And to the listeners, thank you so much for listening. Reach out to Hospice, follow them, just see what they're doing, see what the benefits and what impact they're having on our community. And go, if you're not local to our area, go be part of your Hospice local community, because it is such a powerful thing. So thank you so much for listening. And if you like today's episode, share it, subscribe, share with a friend, business partner, whatever. And we will see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.